I love the late night posts because the whole world is so still. There aren't any other vibrations to get in the way, and you can really engage with whatever subject it is you're on. Tonight I'm going to talk about freedom and responsibility. There was a song by Chris Christopherson, which talks, it's called Bobby McGee, and there's a famous line in there which goes, "Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose, and that nothing ain't worth nothing, but it's free." I'd look at it slightly differently. I'm going to illustrate why Black Lives Matters spread to 50 countries following the death of one black man after a white policeman in America, held his knee on his neck for about 9 minutes. The reason there was so much resonance for this event, in my opinion, is that for the first time in their lives, people who weren't black, meaning mostly white people, were living under the pandemic with lockdowns. For the first time, their privilege, the feeling that they had that the whole of the world was their oyster to do with as they chose, that privilege had been taken away, and I believe it was the loss of that freedom, that privilege, that entitlement that suddenly made them feel the empathy of the pathetic way in which George Floyd lost his life. Same people, different circumstances. Those circumstances cause them to trigger their empathy. Now, we watch the Hollywood, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney World videos all the time. And it's very interesting to see the characterization of people of different backgrounds. Let's say, for example, an alien has landed. This is a sci-fi flick. An alien has landed on our planet. The American team would go up to him, poke him in the belly, and say, "What are you doing on my property? Get off." The European team would hide behind a tree and quietly observe what these extraterrestrials are doing on their planet, but they'd quietly observe them to check out what their game plan is, why they're here, that sort of thing. And that's because the European has been raised in a culture in which he knows that sometimes things go wrong, and they can go catastrophically wrong. The First and Second World Wars were fought on their territory. They have seen massive blood loss. They have seen their homes bombed and destroyed in swathes. So whereas they're still arrogant and entitled, they know that the game doesn't always go your way. The Americans haven't experienced that much. It's only recently, since Vietnam and Afghanistan, that they're beginning to realize that, whoops, sometimes when you go abroad and throw your weight around, it doesn't end well. What would the African do? The African would hide behind the trees, look carefully at what the people were doing, take notes, and then scamper back to his mates to tell them what he has seen. 3 different cultures, 3 different levels of entitlement, 3 different responses. And it occurs to me that actually freedom is about not being beholden to anybody or anything apart from your conscience. But the problem with freedom is that once you withdraw that permission to society for it to expect you to behave as it wants you to behave, fair or unfair, once you withdraw that authority into yourself, then right there follows a massive responsibility, because you don't have the freedom to behave like an anarchistic prat. You don't have the freedom so that you can behave like an animal in the jungle. Even animals have morals. But when human beings are free, because they have technology and other powers, they can behave in the most brutish manner, which we see every day. Last witnessed in England, when it got dumped out of the Euro finals on penalties. So freedom carries with it the burden of responsibility for doing that which is right. That's got two big problems. One, first you've got to decide what right is. You've got to know what right is and what wrong is. Then you've got to make the choice, and all the time you are battling the little voice in your head which is saying, if I do the right thing, will I look weird? Will it be endorsed by my friends? Will it make me money? Will it lead to a loss of status? Will it lead to a loss of popularity? All these little voices are chattering in the back of your mind. You're free, but actually you're still going to have to decide what to do with your freedom. And I think that that's where the world is right now. We face an existential threat where it is clear to absolutely the most myopic individual that all our human rights, under cover of us being protected from this pandemic, are being taken away. It doesn't take a hop, step, or a jump to see that we have the makings perfectly in embryo of a world totalitarian state. Or even if not that, your own country, the country in which you live, could become a dictatorship because your democratic freedoms are being egregiously attacked. So, under these circumstances, what are you going to do? If you are a sovereign, free human being, you now have to decide what is right and what is wrong. And that decision, of course, depends on how you see yourself. If essentially you see yourself as a slave, as a chattel, as somebody who's a follower, as somebody who does what they're told without engaging with their own thoughts, you're behaving one way. If you believe that you're a person who has a sense of what is right and what is wrong, and indeed a mission to behave in more than just the standard animalistic, will this benefit me, will it make me money, will it make me more popular, etc., etc., etc. If you feel your barrier, the bar that you must traverse, that you must jump over, is high enough to avoid that kind of behavior, then you have a lot of thinking to do, because the hour is getting late, and day by day by day, we're going to have to express what freedom means to us as individuals.